Hi, welcome to How to Use a Measurement to Test a Scientific Hypothesis, Part 2. In the last lesson, we considered a hypothetical scenario. A new particle was discovered, and physicists measured its lifetime. They reported a measurement of 1.37 plus or minus 0.32 times 10 to the minus 11 seconds. And that quoted error bar was a Gaussian error bar. We'll note now that we will be assuming Gaussian errors throughout this video. Then we looked at comparing this measured result to the predictions of scientific models. We asked, if the model is correct, and thus the hypothesis is true, how weird is this measured result? And the key to answering this question is looking at the difference between the measured value and the predicted value and comparing that difference to the uncertainty. Here we're going to take this a step farther and discuss how we could use measurements to rule out scientific models. So here's the question we want to address. Let's say we have some scientific model. It makes some predictions about the values of certain measurable quantities. We measure one of those quantities and get a result. Just how weird does our measured result have to be, under the hypothesis that the model is correct, for us to reject that scientific model? Well, it depends. There isn't a single correct answer, and the choice is also somewhat subjective. So, we'll give a few example scenarios and explain why different choices may be appropriate in the different cases. But the choice should take into account the answers to a couple of closely related questions. First, how experimentally well established is the scientific model? And second, how many experimental tests do you expect this model to undergo? These questions are very closely related because well-established models typically have undergone many tests already and would be expected to undergo many more. More speculative models would typically undergo just a few. With that, let's look at scenario 1. Let's say we're testing the prediction of a well-established scientific model that has passed thousands of experimental tests. Let's start by clarifying, what do we mean by well-established? We don't mean that the model is popular or pretty or interesting or even long-standing. We mean that it has made many predictions which have been experimentally tested, and that those experimental tests have given results in good statistical agreement with the predictions. So, we're looking at a scientific model that has been very robust in the face of experimental tests. To be concrete, let's say the well-established model makes a prediction tau predicted for that particle lifetime that we discussed last time. We're going to measure that particle lifetime. The result we get will be called tau measured. How far away from the model prediction must the measured value fall for us to rule out the well-established model? 2 sigma? 3 sigma? 5 sigma? 6 sigma? Here, we'll argue that it's appropriate to require a comparatively large difference between tau measured and tau predicted. We'll give 2 reasons. First, if the model has passed many experimental tests, we want convincing evidence before we reject it. This is a case of extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Because here, the claim that the model disagrees with observation is arguably extraordinary. The criteria for rejecting the model should reflect how experimentally successful the model has been in the past. Second, scientific models that describe nature well may be experimentally tested thousands or even millions of times. This is because if a model works, we don't just declare it true. We keep testing it until it fails. And if you test the model enough times, even if that model is true, you will eventually get an experimental result that causes you to reject it. To see this, imagine for a moment that the model's prediction, tau predicted, really is the true value of the lifetime, tau true. So, as shown on the right, we expect the measured results to be Gaussian distributed around the true value, tau true. Now, we imagine that tau true is the value predicted by the model. So we substitute tau predicted for tau true on the bottom axis. In that imaginary case, approximately 95% of measurements will fall within 2 sigma of tau predicted. But that means that about 5% of measurements will fall more than 2 sigma away from tau predicted, shown here as the 2 white areas on the sides of the plot. If we reject the well-established model whenever tau measured falls more than 2 sigma away from tau predicted, we will reject the model in about 1 out of every 20, actually more like 22, measurements. This is not practical for a model that we will test thousands of times. What about if we rejected the model whenever the measured and predicted values differed by more than 3 sigma? Well, again, we imagine that the model's prediction, tau predicted, really is the true value of the lifetime, tau true. If that were the case, about 99.7% of measurements would fall within 3 sigma of tau predicted. But that means that about 0.3%, or more precisely about 1 in 370 measurements, would fall more than 3 sigma away from tau predicted. So we would reject the model in about 1 out of every 370 measurements, even if that model were true. This is likely still not practical for a model that will be tested thousands of times. Let's ask, for various possible rejection criteria, how often would we rule out a true model? Well, if we rejected the model whenever tau measured fell more than 4 sigma away from tau predicted, we would reject a true model in about 1 out of every 16,000 measurements. If we rejected the model whenever tau measured fell more than 5 sigma away from tau predicted, we would reject a true model in about 1 out of every 1.7 million measurements. And if we rejected the model whenever tau measured fell more than 6 sigma away from tau predicted, we would reject a true model in about 1 out of every 500 million measurements. Now, we don't want to erroneously rule out a model. It's not that we believe the well-established model to be true. We do expect it to fail at some point. But it's important to not hold it to standards that even a true model could not pass. If we are doing many experimental tests, we want incorrect rejections of hypotheses to not be frequent. So, if our field is doing many measurements over many years to test this model, we may need to require a 5 sigma or even 6 sigma deviation between the measured and predicted values in order to reject the model. While we're at it, let's give one bit of terminology. In a situation like this, where there is a default scientific model, the prediction of that default model is often referred to as the null hypothesis. More generally, one could say that the null hypothesis is the hypothesis that nothing interesting is going on. Experimental results that reject the null hypothesis can be the first sign that the well-established model is not an adequate description of nature and that we need a new one. Okay, with that, let's move on to scenario 2. Let's again say that we have a well-established scientific model that has passed hundreds or thousands of experimental tests. But that's not the model we're testing. Let's say someone has invented a new, speculative model. It looks like it would have fared in past experimental tests similarly well to the well-established model. So there's no reason to rule it out a priori. This model is interesting. Perhaps it addresses some question that the well-established model can't address. In a case like this, it might look like we should be similarly strict in ruling out this model as we would be in ruling out the well-established model. But you've been in this field a long time, and there are a few other pieces of information that you know. Speculative models like this are proposed all the time. And they tend to be compelling. They're interesting, and they're not previously experimentally ruled out. In fact, you'll probably test 50 of them this year alone. And these speculative models almost always fail after one or a few experimental tests. The last time one of them replaced the previous well-established model was over 30 years ago. So you don't put too much confidence in any one model to be the next big breakthrough. Since you take the a priori probability of this model panning out as small, you don't require extraordinary evidence to rule it out. Instead, you might want to do a simple check of this model and move on to the next one. So you might say something like the following. If the speculative model is correct, about 95% of measurements will fall within 2 sigma of the model's prediction. If the measurement falls outside that range, I'm saying the model is ruled out. In a situation like this, you may well be comfortable with that. Of course, it's always possible that this speculative model is, in fact, closer to the truth than the current well-established model. If this model were the correct description of nature, there would be an approximately 5% chance that the measured result would fall more than 2 sigma away from the true value. And if that happens, you would rule out the model even though it's true. If you think it is very unlikely that this particular speculative model is going to be the model that pans out, you might consider that an acceptable risk. Your choice reflects your assessment, before the measurement is done, of the probability that this is the rare model that will pan out. Okay, let's look at scenario 3. This time, imagine your field has experienced something of a revolution in the last few years. Perhaps some new technology allowed new experiments that previously had been impossible. Several new discoveries have happened in just the last few years. The old paradigm for describing nature has been shown to be inadequate, and a new one is taking its place. Let's say this paradigm is really new. It is a new scientific model that has emerged after seeing the results of a few dozen experiments. You are conducting an experimental test of this new scientific model. It predicts a certain value for a certain measurable quantity, and you are measuring that quantity. In this case, you can make the prediction of the new scientific model your null hypothesis. However, compared to the case in scenario 1, the null hypothesis is on experimentally shaky ground. Given the rate of advances in your field, you may think it's reasonable to expect that this new paradigm may itself be replaced by a better model in just a year or two. In this case, ruling out the null hypothesis may not be such an extraordinary claim. So maybe you deem that it doesn't require such extraordinary evidence to be ruled out. Under these circumstances, you may be comfortable ruling out the null hypothesis if the measurement disagrees with its prediction by just 2 or 3 sigma. Okay, let's finish up with a few remarks. Here, we've looked at criteria one might consider imposing for how to rule out a scientific model. There isn't one set answer. It depends on the situation. The choice of criterion should reflect 1, the level of past experimental success of the model, and 2, the total number of experimental tests the model is likely to undergo in its lifetime. Critically, the choice of criterion must be made before the measurement is done. This is to make sure that knowledge of the experimental result does not bias our criteria for deciding to rule out or keep the model. And lastly, the criteria for rejecting or keeping the model should be included with the result. We shouldn't just say that the model is rejected or kept. We need to also specify how the decision was made. This is because statistical fluctuations happen. Inadequate models can survive experimental tests by luck, and discoveries can be missed. So detailing the criteria used is important in the event that the result needs to be revisited later.